You've seen everything in your life, but I think even you were quite taken aback.
Well, you don't very frequently hear people being ambushed at a car intersection and guns being fired. And I thought one of the things was she had a young child in the car. And she was desperately worried about the child.
It's like the movies. And I mean, we're all fascinated, aren't we? You know, you look at The Godfather and all of that.
Yeah,
we're fascinated by these people. And it's interesting that there's a sense of pride that they have.
Well, I mean, that is what I discovered, really, because you would have thought that if you did this sort of thing, you wouldn't be talking about it.
Oh, indeed, absolutely.
So genially to people around. There is a very strong pride in what they've done. Nobody ever says, I'm terribly ashamed of what I've done. They remember the place where they were inducted when their finger was pricked and, you know, some blood was taken. They look back on it with great, great, great pride. And there's no regret. If there's any regret, somebody said to me, he said, I don't have as much money as I used to have. You know, now I have to look at the price of champagne when I go to dinner and so on. I didn't have to when I was in the Mafia.
They're like tribes. It's very tribal, isn't it? And
it is very
tribal and clannish.
Yes,
with
it's a fraternity.
Yeah.
And you know they stick together. That oath of loyalty which they swear to this thing remains very, very strong, and it takes precedence over wives and children and family and all other associations. And they're very, very proud about it.
What I love about what you do, though, is you really can probe really deeply, and you get people to...
You get a chance to do that.
Yeah, but they tell you things perhaps they might regret sometimes. You know, that you get people to open up. That's the thing. We really get to the heart of what's going on.
Sometimes you're a little astonished at how much they say. One of the guys said to me, he said, you know, to be very honest, we are not very nice people, and we shouldn't be married, and we shouldn't be associated with so freely because of the things we do. And the point he was making was that is because this is what it is, and it takes prominence over everything else. So this is what you become. This is what you do, and nothing can change that. Everything else goes to the side. So somebody has to be killed, and you are told that, and you go out and you do it. It's a job, and you know it's kind of chilling to
It is really, and how they can compartmentalise that in their brains, you know, that they can actually do that. It is just a job, even though you're taking a life.
You and I do this because we have bills to pay. You know, it's a job.
Yeah.
But then, perhaps sometime later, somebody says, you know, I saw you and I thought that maybe my son could do this.
Yeah.
And you're very proud that you've had that sort of influence. But make no mistake about it, you know, I wanted work in London, and I fell into journalism and was lucky enough to survive in television. So that was the primary thing. But it's nice when people remember what you've done.
And don't ever retire. David Frost said you should never retire.
Well,
no one
yes,
should.
To do what?
Exactly. Because this is what you love doing.
Exactly,
it's what you absolutely
and to
love
get a
doing.
chance to do these things is so wonderful.
Oh, it's brilliant.